Welcome to a spark of awareness. We live in a time where we are constantly being stimulated, prompted by systems, by algorithms, by AI. But when we outsource our answers, we slowly give away our authority, our inner voice, our self-mastery. Conscious leadership has no shortcut, no hack, and it can only begin from within. It is the courage to stop escaping and to sit with what's alive and present inside, even when it's very uncomfortable. But that's where growth is. And this podcast is a space for that. This podcast is an evolution. And every week, I will share a 15-minute human prompt, live, non-performative. It is a moment of reflection drawn from my work in conscious leadership, from the journeys of the leaders I coach and accompany, and from what is moving in a collective film of what is humanity and leadership. I am Sophie Vaux, a conscious leadership coach and guide of transformation. I support leaders who are crossing the threshold right now from the old system of leadership, a legacy, into a deeper, more conscious way of being. If the traditional model no longer resonates, know that you are not alone, and that is your weekly practice. This is your time with your inner world. This is your weekly spark of awareness. Welcome. Welcome to a new episode of Spark of Awareness. I've been away for a few weeks because I was integrating a lot of what has happened the past month. Many changes, good changes, but I had to integrate, and when making priorities, sometimes letting go, it's part of the process, and not having always control, which I'm going to talk about in this series. But I'm resuming with some coaching practices, a short episode on the different patterns and the different shadows of leadership. So in this series, I'm going to get into the 6 human needs. So those needs were also brought by several coaches. You can also check the references from Tony Robbins, for example, who talks about the 6 human needs. And you have different models around the human needs. You have a self-determination theory. You have a pyramid of Maslow. And so I'm always looking into different models to look at how humans work with different lenses. And so I found this model of the 6 human needs interesting to deconstruct where our patterns and our shadow, because the whole point of those reflection is cultivating self-awareness. And that's how you can be more conscious in what you do, how you think about things, and how you will act. So the 6 human needs are fundamental needs that every human needs, and therefore, as a leader, you also have those needs. And it's good to be aware of those, first for yourself, but also for the people you lead. So I'm going to go over them. And in each episode, I'm going to cover each to look at the shadow side of that human need and how that translates. So you can see for yourself if you have those patterns and how to have a conscious practice when you have those needs. So the first need is the need of certainty. The second need is the need of variety, uncertainty. The third need is the need of significance. The fourth need is the need of love or connection. The fifth need is the need of growth. And the sixth need is the need for contribution. In this series, I'll go over them one by one. And today I'm going to address the first one that I have listed, the need of certainty. That's one actually that is very present in business, in leadership. And if I had to translate in what's the need of certainty, it's the need of control. When that need of certainty is too present, dominant, it leads to an over need, attention on control. And it can become a problem, especially in leadership, in organization. You try to control the outcome, You want to have certainty on the success. You want to have a certainty that you'll make it, that you're going to make your numbers, that you can grow, survive, and all those things. So there's pressure on control, usually from the management, trying to control the market, which we know by now we can't control on others, employees, peers, manipulation, and increased dependency on the system and on each other instead of sovereignty. So that need of certainty, and all the needs are valid needs. It's not to say that it's a bad thing to need certainty, but when it's unexamined and is pushed too far, it becomes a shadow and it becomes a blocker for growth, for personal development and consciousness. So that's why I'm examining those in this episode, and it leads to imbalance. So, what is the shadow of the need of too much certainty? Like I said, it's the need of control, safety, predictability. For example, once you know that every action they will do today will lead to success, so there's a guaranteed outcome. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like this. It's not because you put an amount of effort that the outcome, especially monetarily or success of a business, will follow. It increases the probability of it, but it's not something 100% sure. Far from it. Statistically, success of startup is what, 5%? So there's an over index on controlling the team also, what they're doing, that they stay and that they will never leave. And you can also see the same pattern in personal relationship, trying to control someone so they never leave you, or trying to control someone so you can get something that you want from them. And all of that, controlling the market, controlling the outcome, controlling others, is an illusion. I'm sure you have tried to control and manipulate people. I'm sure you can go somewhere, maybe consciously or subconsciously. But people, when they really want to do, they do what they want to do, and they usually do what they do and not what you want them to do. And that's already a reminder that you can't control that. So it's a loop that reinforces, the need for certainty, because when you want to control and you don't control, what do? You do many other things to force this illusion of control. You set up contracts, legal agreements, you go to court, mega planning, contracts that lock in people, you prevent freedom, etc., etc. So you see the cycle, and are you catching yourself when you are forcing a lot of guarantees to have control? And the way through is to actually release control. To release control and to surrender. And surrendering to release control, I also speak for myself. For me, the need of certainty was very present in my earlier life. That gave me safety, what made me feel to be in a place, and I wanted to control. I wanted to be sure that nobody would harm me, that we would have runway, that I will be safe with my salary. And I learned many times during this process, especially working in games where it has been quite a roller coaster, amazing ride, but also a lot of uncertainty, up and down, that I don't have certainty on teams. And so I had teams that closed. I had people who left the team. I had numbers that did not happen as expected. I quit companies when I was not planning to. So I learned the hard way that there's very little that I control. So the practice for you, if you find yourself really clinging on needed to know, but it's also preventing you from growing, it's to practice not knowing. And how does that feel in the body? To let go of control little by little. For me, letting go of control during my whole journey of life, it was creating a lot of anxiety and stress. And so it was a practice to let go one more, then a little more, and a little more. And so what are the things you can let go of and learn that it's okay? Nothing terrible will happen when you don't control, but at least in your body you will feel a little better, less contracted, less stressed, because the need of certainty and control, it creates a contraction, a tension in your body. and it creates a lot of fatigue. And when pushed too far and persisting for so long, chronic symptoms. And the thing to remind yourself, what can you really control? I go back to the practices of Stoicism, or you can't control what's outside of you. So the main thing is in you that you can control. So instead, Stoicism, and which is also a lot in like self-awareness practices, you control your thoughts, your perception, so how you decide to interpret events. Then from those thoughts, you can control the action, what you are going to do. So if you have a negative self-talk, then you're going to have probably a negative action that reinforces that negative self-talk. And if you have a positive interpretation or something that is not that negative, then you have a different action. So for example, that's something that you can control, is how do you perceive a situation. And the other practice for you, if you are so much in control, is acceptance of what is. When somebody does not do what you want, when something is not happening the way you want, how can you sit with it? And how can you be with your frustration? And I'm telling you, I have practiced this quite some time, because my pattern has been a need of certainty throughout my life. And so a lot of that practice was to be a friend with anxiety, not knowing, and to learn that it's okay to not know and it's safe to not know. Because in the end, trying to know, it's just an illusion. So it doesn't change so much the outcome, but the main difference is that you feel better and clearer in your body. So to summarize, for the need of certainty, everyone has those needs. When you are in your shadow, it's an over need of control and predictability. How can you practice not having control, not knowing, and learn through experience what is the result of still going with a plan, going with a path of life without knowing? I didn't know I would be coaching a few years ago. And I honestly didn't try to figure that out, because there was so much to do, but I was just focusing on practicing my learning, going better at my craft, listening to the market, what do people need? And I followed the stream and myself. And then, I mean, I'm in a good place, in the right place, but for that, I had to surrender. So, how can you surrender more to not having control? And as usual, we will close today with a small practice of grounding meditation. And usually, I will design the meditation based on the theme. So, today, as we want to practice letting go of control, I'm asking you to close your eyes and connect with your breathing. And just a gentle breathing, normal breathing through the nose. And one practice for you, you can also try to breathe through your body and let the air pass throughout your whole body, from top to bottom, and see how that feels, just to observe. And as you probably concentrate to meditate, maybe you are having some thoughts right now that are racing in your mind, things that you're supposed to do right now. Instead of meditating and taking those 3 minutes to meditate, sit with it and observe the thoughts. What are the fears? What are the fears if you don't do it now? What is the fear of being here 3 minutes, just standing and just being with yourself? And you just observe. What is the cost of being here just 3 minutes meditating? What will happen? And as you stay here with yourself, connecting to your breath, not going anywhere and observing your thoughts, notice how it feels in the body, little by little. Is your breath deepening? Do you feel a little calmer, regulating? And be in the present moment. And those 3 minutes you're taking right now, nothing will change. If you get that now and write that email, send that message, it's not going to change anything. How can you stay here with the feeling and the agitation and just learn to calm it? And as you're finding a bit more peace in your body, maybe a small feeling of paradise, maybe you want to extend and stay longer with that feeling. Because it's okay. Nothing will happen if you don't write that email now or control that thing you need to control. And so I'm going to close the practice for today. And just based on that experience, you can practice it regularly when you feel this tension escalating and you want absolutely to fix that thing, know that thing, control, to just be a few minutes with yourself and regulate and observe what's there. What's the fear? And once you look into the fear, as we looked into the previous episodes, it dissolves. So thank you for this practice, and I'll continue next week on the next human need, which is the need of variety and uncertainty. In other words, the need of stimulation, constant stimulation. Have a great week. Thank you for tuning in into this weekly reflection, the weekly spark of awareness. After this episode, I invite you to take a few moments with yourself, even just 15 minutes to sit with what resonated, to breathe, and to notice what is shifting inside. This is a practice, a discipline of presence, truth, and self-connection. If this work speaks to you, I accompany leaders in one-on-one journeys and group experiences of transformation, supporting them as they cross the threshold into a truer and freer way of leading and living. If you feel called to explore this path, I would love to hear your story, and let's connect. Sending you love and courage, and have a great week ahead. This is my spark of awareness.